Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour, US President imposes sanctions on Russia for first time in his second term, targeting oil companies. Russia's Putin directs drills of Russia's nuclear forces as his summit with Trump is put on hold. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio departs for Israel as US tries to double down on Gaza ceasefire. US Vice President JD Vance reaffirms support for US brokered ceasefire plan to disarm Hamas and rebuild Gaza. US President warns of very serious action against Colombia, calls Colombian President Gustavo Petro a bad guy. Petro vows to take legal action against Trump. India versus New Zealand face-off in the Women's Cricket World Cup at Navi Mumbai today becomes a virtual quarter-final. The United States has hit Russia's major oil companies with sanctions on Wednesday and accused the Russians of a lack of commitment toward ending the conflict in Ukraine. The new sanctions were unveiled one day after plans for a summit between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin fell apart. Trump has held off on new sanctions for months, saying he hoped to persuade Russian President Putin to make peace despite growing frustration with the Kremlin leader. Trump said that he hopes new Russia oil sanctions will make Putin reasonable.
Today is a very big day in terms of what we're doing. Look, these are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies. And we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push, hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too.
President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday oversaw a test of Russia's nuclear forces on land, sea and air to rehearse their readiness and command structure. The test included the launch of a land-based Yars intercontinental ballistic missile from a cosmodrome, the launch of a Seneva ballistic missile from a nuclear submarine in the Barents Sea, and the launch of nuclear-capable cruise missiles from strategic bombers. Meanwhile, Kremlin has released a video showing General Valery Gerasimov, head of the General Staff, reporting to President Putin on the drills. They included practice launches of intercontinental ballistic missiles which are capable of striking the US. Russia's defense ministry said on Wednesday that its forces had captured the village of Pavlivka in Ukraine's southeastern Zaporizhzhia region, as well as Ivanivka village in neighboring Dnipropetrovsk region. The ministry also said in a statement on Telegram that it had struck Ukraine's energy infrastructure in what it said was a response to Ukrainian attacks on Russian civilian targets. And my colleague Akshay Dongre is joining me live on this. Hi Akshay, very good morning to you. Akshay, what do we know as far as the US's sanctions on major Russian oil companies are concerned?
Well, a very good morning to you, Siddharth, and to all of our viewers. Now, as far as these new sanctions are concerned, they have been imposed on two Russian oil firms, Rosneft and Lukoil. Now, these are two major petroleum producer, firms that are there in the Russian Federation. They do most of the businesses, do businesses with other international partners as well, and are involved in exploration of gas and oil and production of it as well, along with the refinery process that goes on in Russia before it gets exported to the rest of the world. However, now with the sanctions in place, so what changes now is that American individuals will not be able to do business with the two firms. All the assets of the owners and stakeholders of these two firms in the US will be frozen now. Also, there will be some, heavy penalty if, allies or people, American people try to do business. There are already sanctions in place by the European partners. So clearly, pressure will be mounting on these two firms, especially given the fact that sanctions are not going down; they are just going up. And in the coming days, we can expect more harsher measures to bring about an halt in the process, or rather in the working of the Russian firms. But they have other markets. Siddharth, they have Chinese market. They are trying to explore other markets in the east as well. There are countries that still require oil, and given the fact that with these kind of conflicts going on for so many years now, in fact the affordable oil for most of the developing world is just not affordable anymore, and people are trying to find, countries are trying to find all the alternatives that they can find. For example, India has been taking Russian oil. It has a long-standing ties with the Russian Federation. Both are close allies, and with the kind of oil prices going up and being controlled by only one lobby, India also is buying the Russian oil. China is buying the most, and with these kind of sanctions coming in, we can expect some of the prices to go up, but to expect the production to almost end or almost stop is going too far as the expectations are concerned.
Very nicely explained there, Akshay. So basically it comes down to denting Russia's economy, right? And also, Akshay, Russia's strategic nuclear forces also carried out a readiness test supervised by Putin. What does this indicate? Is something big coming up?
Well, let's hope so not, Siddharth, because anything big will be the playing out of mad doctrine, which is mutually assured destruction. Because a country as huge as Russia, which has as many stockpiles of Russian of nuclear assets, nuclear weapons, it is clearly posturing right now. It is trying to show a tough face to the Western allies, to the US President Donald Trump, showcasing that it's not a country that can be bullied by sanctions, that cannot be bullied by threats. Because we have to remember that this very Russian Federation just a few decades back was a superpower, known as Soviet Union, which was Russia was the biggest member of the Soviet Union. In fact, almost 90% of Soviet Union was Russian Federation. It still has all of the nuclear stockpiles that were there of the Soviet Union. It has the advanced weaponry, a very advanced army, air force, navy. So it's not a country that is in any way inferior when it comes to military capabilities are concerned. It has not unleashed all of its military capabilities in Ukraine yet, because it would have meant not only the local population to also suffer, but a lot more, including the fallout of the war and the war spreading to other regions as well. So yes, this is posturing happening. It's quite dangerous posturing, in fact, involving any kind of nuclear talks into the discussion when the discussions are going on about any conflict or any other thing. But this clearly is going to put a lot of pressure on the Western economies as well, on the US economy as well. So it remains to be seen that after this posturing, what will be done, whether there will be an off-ramp that will be sought by the Russian leadership, or are they really serious about escalating this conflict to a new level? Back to you, Siddharth.
Akshay, as far as this conflict is concerned, will there be an end to this conflict? Because there are demands from both the sides, and especially when it comes to Zelensky, he has categorically said that no territorial concessions will take place no matter what. What's your assessment of this?
If history has taught us anything, it is that every conflict comes to an end. Even the World War came to an end. But it depends now how much losses the two sides are willing to sustain. Because, for stubbornness of the political leadership, it is the people that suffer. It's not the leaders that are dying, it's the common people that are dying. So naturally, there has to be a pressure from within the countries as well. If the population is suffering, if the economies are suffering, because dialogue and discussion, as countries like India have been promoting and have been urging the countries to follow, that dialogue and discussion are the only way forward and only way out of this conflict. And any kind of escalation to the conflict will only mean more tears and more pain and more loss of loved ones for the common people.
Definitely, Akshay, you said it right, and I second you in this, that A solution cannot be found on the battlefield, and dialogue and diplomacy is the only solution to end any conflict. But very well explained there. Thank you so much, Akshay. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio will visit Israel on Thursday. This will be Rubio's fourth visit to Israel since taking office in January. Marco Rubio said on Wednesday that the United States would still like to meet with Russia after US President Donald Trump cancelled his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest. Rubio's comments at Joint Base Andrews came after the US imposed sanctions on Russian oil companies. Rubio also said that the Israeli Knesset's move towards the annexation of West Bank would threaten President Trump's plan to end the conflict in Gaza. According to the official, Rubio's visit will focus on supporting the successful implementation of Washington's ceasefire plan in Gaza. It follows the visit of US Vice President JD Vance and US envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to the country this week. According to a statement, in fact, from the State Department, Rubio will be in Israel until Saturday, before then visiting Malaysia, Japan and South Korea. US Vice President JD Vance met with Israel's top leaders, reaffirming support for a US-brokered ceasefire plan to disarm Hamas and rebuild Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu voiced strong opposition to Turkey's involvement in Gaza's security. A joint US-Israel coordination center is now monitoring the truce and aid delivery. With US Secretary of State Marco Rubio set to arrive Thursday, Washington, D.C. is stepping up regional diplomacy.
US Vice President JD Vance and other key officials are in Israel to support a US-brokered ceasefire plan aimed at disarming Hamas, recovering bodies of hostages and rebuilding Gaza. As part of visit, Vance met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Prime Minister said these are days of destiny, and we're very excited to sit down and work together on the Gaza peace plan. We have a very, very tough task ahead of us, which is to disarm Hamas, but rebuild Gaza to make life better for the people in Gaza, but also to ensure that Hamas is no longer a threat to our friends in Israel. That's not easy. I think the Prime Minister knows that as well as anybody, but it's something that we're committed to in the Trump administration, and I think we've, even in the past 24 hours.
Vance emphasized the challenge of improving life in Gaza while ensuring Hamas no longer poses a threat to Israel. US and Israeli forces have opened a civil-military coalition center to monitor the truce and oversee humanitarian aid. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, however, signaled a strong opposition to Turkey's involvement in a proposed international force to oversee the ceasefire.
When it comes to Israel's security, we do what we have to do. That's always the case. That's not a question. But America has an interest in a strong Israel, as you just heard from the Vice President. Israel has an interest in a strong America. America has other interests in this region. Where we can be flexible to accommodate that, that's good, because a strong America is in our interest.
The plan includes an international security force to maintain peace as Israel withdraws, though no US troops will enter Gaza. Turkey's possible role in the force has sparked Israeli concern. Despite recent violence, Vance expressed optimism that the ceasefire will hold. Later, Vice President Vance also met with President Herzog to discuss the broader peace initiative led by President Donald Trump. Herzog expressed optimism while Vance acknowledged ongoing challenges but said he remained hopeful for lasting peace, citing support from both Israel and Gulf Arab nations.
And I truly believe that the fact you're here is another brick in building the future for peace.
Despite continued ceasefire violation and tensions over aid delivery and hostage returns, the next phase of Trump plan requires more difficult steps, including Hamas disarmament and progress toward a Palestinian state commitment that have yet to be secured. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come on DD News. US President Donald Trump defends demolition work at the White House's East Wing to make way for ballroom. Western Balkan nations meet in fact, they met in London on Wednesday for talks on migration and security. And Dublin anti-immigration unrest continues for the third night. 23 protesters were arrested.
geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. The US military killed 2 alleged drug smugglers in a strike against a vessel in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said on Wednesday. The strike is the first known US military operation in the Pacific since President Donald Trump started a new military offensive against the drug trade. This attack has expanded the Trump administration's use of the military in its counter-narcotics campaign. This has led to at least 7 strikes in Caribbean and dramatically raised US tensions with Venezuela and Colombia. The strike brings the total number to at least 8, leaving at least 34 people dead. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the vessel was known by American intelligence to be involved in illicit narcotics smuggling, was transiting along a known narco-trafficking transit route and carrying narcotics. US President Donald Trump and his Colombia counterpart Gustavo Petro traded angry threats on Wednesday. Trump said his administration had the legal authority to carry out strikes on vessels near the Venezuela that are transporting drugs, but the administration may go back to Congress if it decides to start hitting targets on land. Trump also told reporters he may take very serious action against Colombia due to its role in international narcotics trade. Trump branded Petro a thug and suggested he was a drug trafficker leading his country to ruin. He also called Colombian President Gustavo Petro a bad guy.
Well, he's a thug and bad guy. He's a guy that is making a lot of drugs. We've just, as of today, stopped all payments going to Colombia, the country Colombia. Also, the school Colombia. No, we settled. We made a settlement with him. But no, he's a thug, and he's a bad guy, and he's hurt his country very badly. They're doing very poorly, Colombia. They make cocaine. They have cocaine factories. They grow all sorts of crap that's drugs, bad drugs coming into the United States, goes generally through Mexico. And he better watch it or we'll take very serious action against him and his country. His country is, what he has led his country into is a death trap.
Meanwhile, Colombian President Gustavo Petro announced that he will take legal action in US courts after President Trump called him a bad guy and threatened serious action against Colombia over drug trafficking. In a post on X, Petro said he would defend himself in court against the slanderous accusations made against him in the United States by high-ranking officials. The escalating tensions came as Trump told reporters at the White House he was suspending all payments to Colombia due to its role in the international narcotics trade. In mid-September, Trump decertified Colombia's counter-narcotics efforts, claiming the country failed to meet its obligations over the past year. Peru deployed military personnel across Lima on Tuesday following the declaration by President Jose Herri of state of emergency aimed at curbing rising crime the day before. The government said the emergency decree includes measures such as limiting prison visits to once a week for ordinary inmates and once every 2 weeks for those under special regimes. Telecommunications equipment inside cells will be destroyed and electricity will be restricted to basic lighting. Herri led a high-profile operation at a local penitentiary, inspecting inmates and confiscated belongings. The visit was part of a broader crackdown on organized crime and prison control, which authorities say has worsened in recent months. The new president, who took office earlier this month after the ouster of Dina Boluarte, has made tackling crime a central priority of his administration. President Donald Trump on Wednesday defended demolition work at the White House's East Wing to make way for a ballroom. The full east wing of the White House will be torn down to make way for President Trump's new ballroom, despite Trump's earlier pledge that the project would not interfere with the existing landmark. Demolition workers began tearing down the section of the White House that holds offices for the First Lady and other staff on October 20. The White House said it would submit plans for the ballroom construction for review by the National Capital Planning Commission, which oversees federal construction in Washington and neighboring states, even though demolition had already begun. The National Trust for Historic Preservation on Tuesday asked the Trump administration to pause the demolition until the Planning Commission review was completed. Democratic U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon concluded a marathon speech opposing Republican President Donald Trump's agenda on Wednesday, the 22nd day of a government shutdown. Merkley declared he was ringing the alarm bells over what he called an authoritarian takeover, a system where he warned families lose and billionaires win. Merkley became the third Democrat this year to take the floor for a marathon protest speech. With Republicans controlling both the House and the Senate, Democrats have little legislative power. But this rare stand on the Senate floor became their stage, an act of resistance, using the power of words to delay proceedings and draw national attention to what they see as a fight for democracy itself.
I want to repeat my main mission statement for being here through the night, and that's to ring the alarm bells of alarm at this authoritarian takeover and at this strategy of doing authoritarian bills in which families lose and billionaires win. Families lose their health care or their nutrition benefits or their Medicaid in order to fund tax breaks for billionaires.
Leaders of 6 Western Balkan nations met in London on Wednesday for talks on migration and security. The summit is expected to focus on efforts to reduce illegal migration as well as regional security and other shared threats. Britain sanctioned to smash criminal smuggling gangs operating in Balkans, producing forged documents used in human trafficking, and several others involving in financial and such illegal migration. The government imposed sanctions on members of what it described as a Kosovo-based organized crime group responsible for producing false documents and supplying them to criminal gangs.
The Western Balkans has long been a vital transit route for the criminal smuggling gangs. You don't want to see those gangs operating in your territory, and we all suffer the consequences of their action. We're talking of a criminal enterprise here, a vile trade with people making huge amounts of money that directly impacts on all of us. So we have to take these gangs down, smash them, through proper, purposeful cooperation.
The German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, also attending the summit, urged further progress in the development of relations between Serbia and Kosovo, which Serbia considers a breakaway part of its own territory.
I'm delighted that we have also agreed on a common position today, a joint declaration on reconciliation and good neighborly relations. However, we must now breathe life into this, because the future of the 6 countries of the Western Balkans lies in the European Union. And today has shown once again that the Berlin process is helping them to progress along this path.
Over 23 people were arrested as hundreds of protesters and police clashed for the second night in a row outside an asylum seeker hotel near Dublin. Police launched bricks and fireworks at protesters. The unrest followed at least 6 arrests after tensions flared at protests at the same location where a police van was also set on fire. The protests were sparked by reports that a 26-year-old man accused of sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl in the vicinity of the hotel was an asylum seeker. Authorities have not yet commented on the claim. Irish Prime Minister Micheál Martin had condemned violent protests and vile abuse against police. Also, the Justice, Home Affairs and Migration Minister said more arrests will follow. Ireland and the UK have seen rising anti-immigration sentiment in recent years, with hotels housing asylum seekers common flashpoints for protests and violent riots. Louvre director Laurence Descartes admitted a terrible failure in the museum's security. Cameras missed the intruders and key areas were left unmonitored. Louvre director added that despite their efforts, they had been defeated and revealed that she had offered to resign. an offer that Culture Minister Rachida Dati had refused. On Sunday, 4 masked thieves had staged an audacious daylight heist using a crane to smash a second-floor window before fleeing on motorbikes with France's crown jewels worth around 88 million euros. The theft has sparked national outrage and humiliation. Now, Dakar vows sweeping reforms, upgrading the Louvre's CCTV network, enforcing no parking zones and calling for a police post inside the museum.
Nous avons une infrastructure, on peut le dire, vieillissante, qui ne permet pas, si vous voulez, de greffer des équipements modernes et de toute dernière génération en matière notamment de vidéo et de détection sur une infrastructure qui ne la supporte tout simplement pas. Nous avons aussi d'importants soucis dans on peut le dire, l'implantation des postes de sécurité au sein du musée qui sont vieillissants.
In Cameroon, the Constitutional Council dismissed all challenges to the October 12 presidential election, clearing the way for final results. The decision comes amid street clashes between security forces and opposition supporters. President Paul Biya appears set for an unprecedented 8th term despite mounting allegations of fraud. The council rejected 10 petitions citing lack of proof, sparking outrage among opposition figures. Rival Issa Chiroma claimed he actually won, accusing the council of betrayal and warning of public resistance if falsified results are declared. The government urged calm as protests flare across cities, but with Biya poised to rule into his 100th year, Cameroon stands at a critical crossroads. Taiwan's defense ministry said it intends to deepen collaboration with the United States, including reciprocal visits and observation of military exercises to help maintain peace and stability in the region. The United States, like most countries, has no formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but is the island's most important international backer and is bound by law to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself. Taiwan has complained of stepped-up military and political pressure from China. In a report to Parliament, the ministry said the United States is an important strategic partner. Military interactions between Taiwan and the US are already close, including Taiwanese F-16 fighter pilots training in Arizona, though such collaborations normally remain outside the public spotlight given their sensitive nature. And let's take a look at what else is making news around the world. Atlisco, a city in Mexico, is celebrating its annual Via de Catrinas festival as part of the Day of the Dead season. Local artists have crafted towering skeleton figures over 3 meters tall using traditional papier-mâché techniques. These sculptures depict everyday Mexican workers and are beautifully set among the town's marigold flower. In Caracas, Venezuela, crowds gathered to celebrate the canonizations of Jose Gregorio Hernandez and Sister Carmen Renteles. Hernandez, known as the Doctor of the Poor, is deeply loved across the country. However, a planned mass was cancelled by the Catholic Church due to tensions between President Nicolas Maduro and the Venezuelan cardinal. Despite this, marchers paid tribute with prayers and songs in the streets. In Buenos Aires, Argentina, many people are selling personal items on the streets to survive the country's worsening economic crisis. In the city of Villa Fiorito, locals lay out used goods on blankets, hoping to earn a little money. With rising prices, job losses and a weak peso, families are struggling to make ends meet. Nearly 40% of workers are in informal jobs without benefits, often juggling multiple roles to get by. And still to come on DD News Hour. Centre releases draft amendments to IT rules to address risks posed by deepfakes and AI-generated content. India now ranks 9th globally in terms of forest area. Stay tuned to know more on this. The filing of nominations for second phase of assembly elections in Bihar to end today. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. US President imposes sanctions on Russia for first time in his second term, targeting oil companies. Russia's Putin directs drills of Russia's nuclear forces as his summit with Trump is put on hold. And US Secretary of State Marco Rubio departs for Israel as US tries to double down on Gaza ceasefire. US Vice President JD Vance reaffirms support for a US brokered ceasefire plan to disarm Hamas and rebuild Gaza. US President warns of very serious action against Colombia, calls Colombian President Gustavo Petro a bad guy. Petro vows to take legal action against Trump. India versus New Zealand face-off in the Women's Cricket World Cup at Navi Mumbai today becomes a virtual quarter-final. India's green cover is growing and the world is taking notice. The country has moved up to the 9th position globally in terms of total forest area as per a latest report. DD India's Tripti Tripathi reports.
India has achieved another green milestone on the global stage. According to the Global Forest Resource Assessment 2025, released by the Food and Agriculture Organization in Bali, India now ranks 9th in the world in total forest area, moving up from the 10th position in the previous assessment. Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Bhupender Yadav, shared the achievement on social media, highlighting that India has also retained its 3rd position globally in annual forest area gain, a clear sign of the country's sustained commitment to environmental protection and sustainable forest management. Union Environment Minister credited this success to the visionary initiatives of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, including large-scale afforestation programs and people-led environmental actions. From Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam, a call inspiring millions to plant a tree in honor of their mothers, to nationwide afforestation drives and community-led conservation efforts, India's green journey has become a people's movement. As India rises to the 9th spot globally, it's not just about numbers. It is also about India's growing resolve to create a greener, cleaner and sustainable future for generations to come. Tripti Tripathi's report for DD India.
The Indian government has released draft amendments to IT rules to address the risks posed by deepfakes and AI-generated content. As per the proposal by the Ministry of Electronics and IT, major social media platforms must clearly label AI or synthetic content visibly for at least 10% of visuals and audibly for first 10% of audio. Platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and X will also be responsible for verifying if user-uploaded content is real or AI-generated. Public feedback on the draft is invited until 6th of November 2025. The move aims to boost user awareness, curb misinformation and ensure responsible AI use. Chief Minister of the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh and Chandrababu Naidu is on a 3-day visit to the UAE. He addressed the CII Partnership Summit roadshow event in Dubai, highlighting the state's growth vision. Naidu invited global industry leaders to attend the 30th edition of the CII Partnership Summit in Visakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh on November 14 and 15. He showcased the state as a prime investment destination backed by 24 sector-specific policies and fast-track approvals. He also outlined plans to develop Andhra Pradesh into a global logistics hub and boost tourism through new circuits and parks. In his address, Naidu expressed confidence in India's rise as a leading global economy by 2047, with Andhra Pradesh playing a key role.
Before coming to Visakhapatnam, you have to prepare one MOU, or if you send proposals, we'll get it sanctioned. With proposals, I am requesting to all of you, Dubai, UAE, you are doing extremely well. I really appreciate you. You cannot ignore India. Lot of opportunities in India. I am 100% confident by 2047, India will be #1 economy.
Civil-military fusion is the need of the hour, keeping in mind modern-day challenges. field experts. A retired general of the Indian Army has raised this issue in his book, Civil-Military Fusion, as a metric of national power and comprehensive security. Watch this report by our correspondent Vishal Perister.
Civil-military fusion is a secret sauce for India's tremendous rise, and I have with me General Raj Shukla. He has authored a book. Let's talk to him and find out. Sir, you have penned your experience in this book. So the time is now. What would you say?
So see, as I said, while speaking on the book, that this subject has for long been in my head and very close to my heart. Common sense-wise, CMF is very simple. It is the coming together of all your instruments in your statecraft for national security interest. So the idea is commonsensical, but as I tried to say in my talk and in my book, it has become a very sophisticated issue. It is a matter of statecraft. It is a matter of guile. It is, as we see the great difficulties in Ukraine, in China, USA, the moot point is that the competition in national security is getting so intense that states are putting all their energies together.
The Defense Minister quoted Op Sindoor and also the Chief of Army Staff. So do you think that we can take this to the next level and we have got bright brains in the country?
Absolutely. So look at Op Sindoor. It's a very good example. Op Sindoor tells us that warfare is not merely about platforms. It is about the wraparound technologies. So I think for the first time we saw that EW, cyber, space, they are as important as the Rafales.
So there you heard General Shukla. He's made it very clear that the time is now and India needs to step up all the efforts because we can't be sitting in silos. With cameraman Rahul in Delhi, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal will be on an official visit to Germany from today to strengthen the economic and trade partnership. The visit will mark a key milestone in enhancing India's engagement with Germany as the year 2025 marks the 25th anniversary of the India-Germany strategic partnership. During the visit, Goyal will hold high-level bilateral meetings with German Economic Affairs and Energy Minister. The Ministry of Commerce and Industry said that the discussions during the meeting will focus on strengthening the dynamic Indo-German economic partnership and exploring new avenues for enhanced trade and investment cooperation. Goyal will also participate in the third edition of Berlin Global Dialogue as a speaker. The ministry added that during the visit, a series of one-on-one meetings with CEOs of leading German companies will be held. Further, the minister will also chair a roundtable with CEOs and leaders of German Mittelstand companies. In fact, he is also scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister of Luxembourg to discuss the strengthening of bilateral trade relations. On the sidelines of the 16th United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal held a series of high-level meetings to strengthen India's global partnerships in trade, innovation and sustainable growth. Piyush Goyal met with Director General of the World Intellectual Property Organization, Darren Tang, marking 50 years of India-WIPO collaboration and exploring opportunities in India's innovation and intellectual property ecosystem. He also engaged with Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, emphasizing India's commitment to a rules-based multilateral trading system and willingness to work with WTO to expand global trade. Piyush Goyal also held discussions with Executive Vice President for Clean, Just and Competitive Transition, Teresa Ribera, European Union Commission, to discuss enhanced India-EU cooperation aimed at shared prosperity and sustainable growth. Further, Goyal held discussions with EU Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, Maros Sefcovic, focusing on the positive resolution of outstanding issues regarding the India-EU Free Trade Agreement ahead of his upcoming Brussels visit. And let's take a look at other stories making news. The filing of nominations for second phase of assembly elections in Bihar will end today. Out of a total 243 seats, 122 constituencies spread over 20 districts will go to polls in this phase on the 11th of November. So far, a total of 1,066 nomination papers have been filed by candidates from various political parties as well as independents for the second phase. Today is also last date for withdrawal of candidature for the first phase of assembly elections. 4 notorious criminals from Bihar were shot dead in an encounter during a joint operation by the Delhi Police Crime Branch and Bihar Police in Rohini, Delhi. The operation took place in Begumpur area of Rohini after police received information that Bihar's wanted gangster Ranjan Pathak and his associates were arriving there. The joint team laid a trap leading to multiple rounds of firing from both the sides. In exchange, Ranjan Pathak and his 3 accomplices were killed on the spot. National Highways Authority of India is deploying network survey vehicles across 23 states covering over 20,000 km to enhance the driving experience on national highways. These vehicles will use 3D laser systems and 360-degree cameras to detect surface defects like cracks and potholes automatically. The collected data will be uploaded to NHAI's AI-based data lake portal for expert analysis, ensuring timely maintenance and improved road safety. And still to come on DD India News Hour. OpenAI to offer Britain's government and businesses an opportunity to store data in the UK. India look to bounce back and level the series in the second ODI against Australia at Adelaide. Neeraj Chopra conferred with honorary rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Territorial Army.
There is something in Jharkhand for everyone. Welcome to a feast of experiences for your body and soul.
I've carried a memory of this place in me from my childhood.
From old world charms to new age excitement. From spectacular natural wonders to warm, friendly people.
Thank you.
Tune into nature with dense forests and wildlife.
कान हिला रहे ना, ये नॉर्मल है. जैसे ये कान खड़े कर लेंगे, एग्रेसिव हो जाएंगे, पूंछ सीधा कर लेंगे तो.
Make magnificent memories as you leave a piece of your heart in Jharkhand. Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India. Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And OpenAI to offer Britain's government and businesses an opportunity to store data in the UK from Friday, helping unlock the potential of AI for more companies and public services. The plan, secured through OpenAI's partnership with the Ministry of Justice, will enhance privacy and security as well as reinforcing resilience to cyber threats. Led by Sam Altman, OpenAI upended the tech industry with the launch of ChatGPT, its AI chatbot, in late 2022. It signed a partnership with the British government in July to work together to use AI to improve public services. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman said the number of people using its products in the UK had increased fourfold in the past year. European Union's Economic Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis and Egypt's Planning Minister Raina Al-Mashat signed a memorandum of understanding for a second $4.66 billion financing. The EU said that the financing comprises loans at favorable terms for Egypt while also underpinning the delivery of a reform program. The signing took place ahead of the first ever EU-Egypt summit focusing on bilateral relations, the situation in the Middle East, Ukraine, during which Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and EU Council President Antonio Costa met. Immediately afterwards, Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati, European Commission for Startups, Research and Innovation and European Commissioner for Mediterranean respectively signed Egypt's association with Horizon Europe and a joint statement on the financing agreement on EU support. The dollar drifted higher against its major peers on Thursday as traders waited on the delayed release of US consumer inflation data. The yen weakened to a one-week low against the US dollar. UK-based company Sterling remained under pressure after British data showed consumer inflation held steady at 3.8% last month, defying economists' estimates for it to accelerate. Traders rushed to price at in fact a 75% chance of the Bank of England cutting rates. And meanwhile in Asia, the Bank of Japan will decide its monetary policy on October 30. However, most traders think there is only a small chance that the bank will raise interest rates by 0.25% this month. Most economists believe the new Prime Minister of Japan will not stop the central bank from raising rates when needed. And you're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sport. And the India versus New Zealand face-off in the Women's Cricket World Cup at Navi Mumbai on Thursday has become a virtual quarter-final. 3 teams have qualified for the semi-finals. The 4th spot is up for grabs and the winner of this match will move closer to booking the last spot in the Final Four.
India take on New Zealand in a must-win game in Navi Mumbai on Thursday, as the hosts face an uphill task to qualify for the semi-final of the Women's World Cup after suffering 3 defeats in a row. India started the tournament with 2 wins, but 3 defeats have put them in a tight spot. The team's narrow 4-run loss to England in the last match has dealt a significant blow. Now to reach the semi-finals on its own, they must win both remaining matches.
We were not able to finish it. We have had a very nice discussion about it with the team, and hopefully, going forward, we could finish the job and finish the games off. We always reiterate within the team that it's important to start well, but it's even important to finish better.
New Zealand has also had a poor start in the tournament. The team suffered crushing defeats against Australia and South Africa, while 2 matches were washed out due to rain, significantly hurting the team's prospects.
In a pretty much knockout game against India in India at a World Cup. So we're incredibly excited. We're obviously under no illusions that India is still the favourites, without a doubt, and we'll wear their underdog badge with pride, as Kiwis often do. Yeah, but for us it is. We know the pressure that India are under at home, but we're just going to go out there and again control what we can control and make sure we stick to what we do well as a Kiwi side.
India and New Zealand have played 57 one-day internationals. New Zealand has won 34, while India have won 22, with 1 match tied. Meanwhile, the Kiwis seem to have an upper hand in the World Cup matches. A total of 13 matches have been played between the 2 sides. New Zealand have won 10 and India has won 2, and 1 was tied. Navi Mumbai experienced heavy rain on Tuesday, and the India-New Zealand match is also under threat. The pitch is considered batting friendly and produces high-scoring matches.
After 3 consecutive losses in the World Cup, India is in a must-win situation and they face New Zealand, the team against whom they have the poorest win-loss ratio in the World Cup. Now it will be interesting to see whether New Zealand continues their dominance against India in the World Cup or India manages to break the series of losses and the Kiwi dominance in the World Cup. With camera person Gaurav Giri, this is Suchitra reporting for DD India in Navi Mumbai.
And my colleague Suchitra Bharadwaj joins us live from Mumbai. Hi Suchitra, very good morning to you. How significant this encounter is, Suchitra, and what can we expect from this encounter?
Good morning, Siddharth. As we know, this has become the virtual quarterfinal. Both the teams, they have 4 points and they need to win this match to clear their chances of making it to the semi-finals. So the match is really important for both the teams. Both are in more or less the same situation. A must-win match for both the teams. So we can expect an exciting match, a close match, and an interesting contest between the bat and the ball. Siddharth.
Definitely. And Suchitra, what are the players to watch out for in this encounter from both the sides?
Well, Siddharth, in the last match, Smriti Mandhana, she was inching towards that century, but she missed out on the century, and we can see that the match turned after her wicket fell. So today also she'll be in the spotlight, and we saw in the practice session yesterday, Smriti Mandhana was out there in the sun practicing for long hours. So once again, our hopes will be pinned on Smriti Mandhana. And if we talk about the New Zealand, then they are over-reliant on their skipper, Sophie Devine, and also Amelia Kerr, who has played in WPL with Harmanpreet Kaur in this very ground, the DY Patil Stadium. So I think New Zealand will be hoping that Amelia Kerr's experience in playing in WPL and in DY Patil Stadium will help them in this match. Siddharth.
Definitely. Suchitra, what is the update on the wicket? And also I would like to ask you that what about the rain gods? Will rain gods be happy? What is the weather report?
Well, the New Zealand team is very frustrated that the rain gods are not helping their chances to make it to the semi-finals. The rain is following them. When they were in Colombo, their 2 matches were washed out. Now they have come here and it rained heavily for 2 hours. In Tuesday and yesterday also it was cloudy, and today also there is some prediction. The match, we don't expect the match to be washed out, but yes, it can be curtailed. So let's see how it goes, because if we talk about India, then there were rain predictions in 2 or 3 of their matches. The first match, India versus Sri Lanka, was also affected by the rain, but still it was completed. The match against Pakistan was also affected by rain, but still it was conflicted. So both the teams have had different fortunes. New Zealand's matches were washed out, but India's matches were affected by the rain but still completed. So I think the same track will follow today. There may be some rain, but the match will still be completed and we'll get to see a clear result. Siddharth.
Let's hope so, Suchitra. It's an important match. We'll keep taking updates from you, but as of now, we leave it there. Thank you so much. In men's cricket, India will hope to bounce back and level the series in the second one-day international against Australia at Adelaide on Thursday. Australia secured a 7-wicket win in the rain-affected opening game and took a 1-0 lead in the 3-match series. Former Indian captains Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma made their comeback after a 7-month break. In fact, struggled on Perth testing surface. The game offers ideal conditions for a turnaround, especially for Virat Kohli. He has scored 244 runs at an average of 61, including 2 centuries in 4 matches. Meanwhile, Australia would like to end the series at Adelaide with a win rather than leaving it for the decider at Sydney. There's no forecast for rain, but there is a possibility of strong winds and lightning ahead of the game day. India's 2-time Olympic medalist and the star javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra was conferred with the honorary rank of Lieutenant Colonel in the Territorial Army on Wednesday. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh bestowed the insignia on the ace athlete. Indian Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi and other senior officials were present on the occasion. Enrolled in the Indian Army in 2016, Neeraj Chopra has served with Rajputana Rifles. The star javelin thrower created history by becoming the first Indian athlete to win an Olympic gold in track and field at the Tokyo Olympics. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Prasar Bharati from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.